And good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all here. It's good to be here in Malaysia. It's a very nice place, it's a very nice city. My name is Mikko Hyppönen. I'm from F-Secure in Finland. And I've been working with computer viruses for a little over 15 years now. Obviously, most of that time, I've been working with viruses on normal platforms, viruses on DOS, viruses on Windows, viruses on Mac, viruses on Linux. But today we're not going to talk about that. Today we're going to talk about viruses on mobile phone platforms, viruses on Symbian, viruses on Palm, viruses on Windows Mobile and other mobile phone platforms. So, the place I live is far away. We will be having lots of snow coming right about in 2 months' time. Our sea will freeze. I remember I was giving a lecture in Cape Town in South Africa last year, and I was trying to convince the local people in there that in Finland the sea will actually freeze during winter time. Freeze so well you can actually drive your car on it. And they simply didn't believe me. That was in January last year. So it actually was frozen when I was there. It's not frozen yet. It will be freezing soon. But it's already cold and rainy. So it is nice to be here in Kuala Lumpur. The place where I do my work is right here. This is F-Secure headquarters in Helsinki in Finland. We do have offices in 11 countries around the world, but this is actually where we do most of our research. This is where we have most of our nerds and geeks. We have around 370 people right now. And I decided to start off by giving you a short tour in our virus lab, just to give you an idea where we work and where we do all this research that we are doing. Now obviously working with viruses, whether it's Windows viruses or mobile phone viruses, needs high security environment. Because one of the risks we face is that the viruses would escape while we are doing the research. One of the worst scenarios for any antivirus company would be that the viruses would somehow end up infecting normal people's computers, normal people's systems. So we have built a high security environment all the way to fingerprint readers that you need to use in order to gain access to our command center, which is right here. This is the area where we actually do virus research, and during virus outbreaks and crises we can collect all the key researchers around the same table, look at the code together, project the code on different screens, look at our different statistics systems and follow the situation in real time. It's real handy. And of course we have to wear these doctor jackets because we're working with viruses. So. But have a look at these. These plasma screens here in the background contain different statistic systems. This one over here actually is showing our rendering technology, which we use to turn computer viruses into three-dimensional images. We can use this technique with any code, including mobile phone code. It doesn't actually have to be a virus. We can take Doom 3 and turn it into a picture like this. The way it actually works is that we take any binary, unpack it, remove any encryptions or packaging protecting it, run it through IDA to get an output of it, and then we run it through a series of Python scripts which will render three-dimensional script out of it, which we then use Blender on Linux to turn it into a three-dimensional picture. So what you see here, each of these boxes is one routine of the code of the virus. The virus you're looking at right now is bagel.ag. So each box is routine, different colored boxes mean different kinds of routines, and the lines connecting the boxes mean that these routines call each other. And of course, because the algorithm we use to do this, the algorithm we use to render the image is constant, it means that one binary always gives the same output. So we can actually use this to compare different viruses to each other. If you take one code and look at it, and then you render another piece of code, if it's a variant, if it's related virus, the pictures look similar. And this is obviously very handy, because one of the big problems antivirus companies have is naming and coming up with classification, whether this new virus we just found is related to any of the existing viruses we have. And obviously it's much easier looking at pictures than reading hundreds of lines of code and trying to figure it out from there. And you don't have to, you have to remember we are receiving several dozens of viruses every day. We are finding new viruses at the rate of 60 to 70 viruses every day. Here on the other side, we have another interesting technology which we use to follow the statistics of the virus situation globally. So this is showing different maps and showing where viruses are infecting systems right now. So with this technology, we're actually receiving back from our customer base information on which viruses they've blocked and the IP address of the machine that blocked it. And we have technology to turn those IP addresses into coordinates and put them on the map. And if we are getting lots of reports of a virus from one single location, we just draw a bigger blob in that area, like here. So there's something going on in Europe right now, something in Beijing, I think. What's this? I think it's San Francisco. So with this kind of technology, we can just look at the code, look at the map and get an idea about where things are happening. And we can actually zoom in on any country. We can look at all the viruses or just one virus. We can look at the situation in real time, or we can look at the last month or the last year, giving us a very good view of the situation. Very nice technology, and it helps us in actually figuring out if we have to do an alert on a new virus or not. Now it's quite different making sure that Windows and Linux viruses don't escape. All we have to really do is make sure that the systems we run them on and we test them on are isolated, that we don't connect these machines to any public networks. It is quite different when you want to make sure that viruses spreading over radio waves don't escape. And of course, these would be viruses spreading over technology like Bluetooth, technology like MMS, multimedia messages, technology like wireless LANs, which we actually haven't seen yet being used by viruses, but trust me, we will. In order to fight problems like these, and in order to analyze them and run these viruses safely, we've built RF labs. These are isolated rooms which have copper aluminum lining, so when you shut down the door, all the radio traffic inside stays inside. And this allows us to take a bunch of victim phones, take them inside an RF lab like this, and actually run viruses there safely. These rooms are isolated and certified to be isolated up to 35 gigahertz. So NMT traffic will not escape, GSM traffic will not escape, Bluetooth will not escape, 3D or UMTS will not escape, even microwave ovens won't escape. The only radio traffic that will still go through is radars, because radars operate on such a low frequency. And of course we're not worried about radars in this environment. But it's almost funny, because when you are working on a mobile phone virus in a lab, you have to be really careful that someone else won't just walk on in and open the door. Because if somebody would walk in and open the door, the viruses wouldn't really escape. They might hit some sales guy's phone who would just be walking in our lobby. And of course we can't have that. Now there is still lots and lots of skepticism about the whole problem. Many people don't think this is a real problem at all. People think that mobile viruses don't exist. People think that mobile viruses are just an urban legend. Or that, yeah, they might exist, but surely they're not infecting anybody really in the real world. It's just all hype being drummed up by antivirus companies. Well, let me tell you, it's not hype, it's not an urban legend, it's real. It is already happening. Let me give you some examples. We believe that there have already been tens of thousands of mobile phones infected worldwide during the last 15 months. We have reports of the most widespread mobile phone viruses like Kabir and Com Warrior from over 30 countries around the world, including reports right here from Malaysia. We work with several large operators, we work with several large mobile phone manufacturers, we work with companies on all levels of mobile phone issues. For example, Nokia headquarters are like 2 kilometers away from our headquarters. And I believe that's actually one of the reasons why we started researching into this whole area to begin with back then in 1999, over 5 years ago. And we've been working with lots of telcos and mobile phone operators, and they keep telling us surprisingly large numbers. Like one telco operator with over 8 million mobile phone subscribers say that so far they have disinfected 13,000 mobile phones. That actually is not an operator, it's like a mobile phone reselling chain. Another company, a mobile phone operator with 9 million customers, told that they are right now receiving over 200 infected phones every day. Another operator with 2 million customers checked the statistics on their MMS, multimedia messaging gateway systems, that all the messages sent by their users go through. And they were surprised to find out that 3.5% of all of their MMS traffic was actually viruses. And I was surprised that the figure is so high already. 3.5% of all the MMS traffic on a fairly large operator is caused by ComWarrior and Malware, the only known MMS viruses. And of course, multimedia viruses, which spread by sending itself in MMS messages, create costs. Sending MMS messages costs money. Depending on where you are, in Europe, typically it costs you €0.50. I checked here in Malaysia, it costs you half a ringgit, which is fairly cheap. Nevertheless, if you have a mobile phone virus sending MMS messages to all the phone numbers, infect your phone, you can just do the math. If you have 200 phone numbers in your phone book, and you get infected, that will cost you €100 or 100 ringgit. And that's already real money. And there's already been real cases, several of them, by several operators, where angry customers have been asking for a refund of their mobile phone bill from the mobile phone operators to cover the charges caused by a virus. Some of the operators have refunded the money, some of them have not. And in fact, you could claim that perhaps they shouldn't, because it really is the user who made the mistake and got infected in the first place. Because mobile phone viruses still are always accepted by the user. You'll see this in just a moment. Now, when we look at how fast mobile phone viruses are spreading, we actually get an interesting analogy to the old PC viruses. We used to be fighting viruses spreading on PC side on several different mediums. For example, back then when the PC virus problem was brand new, basically all the viruses were boot sector viruses or floppy viruses, spreading on these. Remember these? Floppy disks? They aren't really very popular anymore. It's almost funny, but this used to be virus problem number one. Viruses spreading on floppies. And obviously viruses spreading on floppies, when they go and spread around the world, it will take a year for a new boot sector virus to go around the world. That's what it used to do with viruses like Stoned and Yoshi and Form and vSign. It takes a year because the only way to spread a boot sector virus from Kuala Lumpur to Helsinki in Finland is to take a floppy and fly from Kuala Lumpur to Finland. It doesn't spread in any other way. Viruses like these used to spread when people traveled with infected floppies. So they were really slow in spreading. And this is interesting because what we're seeing now with mobile phone viruses is that for a new mobile phone virus spreading over Bluetooth, it typically takes a year to become a global problem because Bluetooth spreads to phones close to you. The only way to get a Bluetooth mobile phone virus spreading from Kuala Lumpur to Helsinki is to board a plane and fly to Helsinki with an infected phone. So it takes roughly the same time. Of course, we got rid of boot sector viruses already around 1995. Then we run into macroviruses, then into email worms like Melissa and Love Letter and Swin and Buckbear and Sobik and Baidu and Bagel and Netsky and Maito. All these things we're still fighting today. And they take roughly 24 hours to go around the world. And the reason why it takes 24 hours is that people all over the world, when they're reading their email, they get infected. And of course, if a virus outbreak would start here in Malaysia right now, we would only get reports of that virus from Asia and Australia, because in Europe and in USA, people are sleeping. They don't read their email when they're sleeping. Then after 2 or 3 hours, people in Moscow would wake up, they would start to get infected. Same thing in India. 2 hours later in Eastern Europe and London, Barcelona. Then it would be quiet for 3 hours. Then New York and Boston would wake up, we would start to get reports from there. 4 hours later from San Francisco and Los Angeles. And the same thing happens in basic, or at least in theory, with multimedia messages or MMS viruses spreading on mobile phones, because people don't use their phones when they're sleeping. So at least in theory, MMS viruses become a global problem in 24 hours. And of course, we've seen even faster problems like network worms, code red, slammer, blaster, sasser, welching, and so forth, spreading in just minutes. We haven't seen anything that fast yet on the mobile phone side. Another interesting analogy I'd like to draw from the traditional virus side to the mobile side is the change in virus writers. Because we used to be fighting kids. We used to be fighting teenagers. We used to be fighting hobbyists. People who wrote viruses because they thought it was neat, they thought it was cool, they thought it was interesting or exciting. People with weird motives like that. Now, we don't much see these people anymore. The enemy has totally changed. We used to be fighting these, but today we're fighting guys like these. Professionals, criminals, organized activity. People who write viruses or get viruses written for them to send out spam, to become spam millionaires, to do phishing scams, again to steal money, to steal credit card numbers, or to launch distributed denial of service attacks, either to take out competitors or to ask for extortion fees. I'm not going to go in details in these cases, which are fascinating but not really relevant to the case at hand, because we haven't yet seen this happening on the mobile phone side. On the mobile phone side, all the threats we've seen so far are more or less kids fooling around, writing viruses just to try if it can be done. But trust me, this will change. Sooner or later, the criminal elements will move in, just like they moved in on the PC side. A very good example on how much the situation has changed on the PC side is the fact that many people are still worried today that if their computer gets infected by a virus, the virus will delete their files, or the virus will format their hard drive. Well, hello, that isn't happening at all anymore. It used to be the standard thing that viruses did. 10 years ago, then viruses were destructive. They were formatting hard drives all the time. We haven't seen destructive PC viruses at all for over 5 years. None of the current viruses are destructive, because the virus writers don't gain anything by deleting your files. They're doing something much worse, like keylogging your passwords and your credit card numbers, or hooking up your PC to a botnet to launch attacks. So this has totally changed, and we do expect this change to happen also on the mobile side. On the PC side, it took over 10 years until the change happened. First viruses were found in 1986. First criminal attacks to make money with viruses were seen in January 2003. This will happen much faster in the mobile phone side, of course. So when we look at statistics and all the things that have been happening on the mobile phone side, the amount of viruses have been increasing from 0 viruses in summer 2004 to 88 viruses right now, or 88 viruses and Trojans, malware in general. So the first one was found on 15th of June last year, Kabir. Then we found a couple of attacks targeting Windows Mobile. Kabir was running on Symbian. Then we had other cases like the Skulls Trojan family, which will prevent the phone from working. Then we found fairly large set of different Kabir variants. I believe we are right now at the level of 26 different versions of Kabir spreading over Bluetooth. Then we found ComWarrior, the world's first virus spreading over multimedia messages, causing billing to end users. And then we found OneHop and CardTrap and other Trojans which will prevent the phone from rebooting at all. Fairly nasty cases. In fact, if you'd go and have a look at the numbers a little bit closer, I should have an Excel file here. Let's see if this... Excel's been having problems lately. Let's see if I can get it running. Yeah, here we go. This is actually the list of all the mobile phone malware we've seen. Starting from the first cases like Liberty and Phage, which were seen in 2000 targeting Palm. And of course, there are phones running Palm. Palm viruses are really rare nowadays. We have some examples, but this really isn't relevant. Symbian viruses, as you can see here from this chart in here, most of this stuff is Symbian. 3 Palm cases, 2 Pocket PC or Windows Mobile cases, and the rest of them are all Symbian. In fact, here we have the chart showing how the number of viruses has grown all the way to the current moment. As you see, it's growing very fast over the last weeks. So, why is Symbian being targeted? Why Symbian? What is this Symbian anyway? Of course, Symbian is just a rename for an old operating system which used to be known as Epoch, made in UK. Nowadays, Symbian is owned by the mobile phone manufacturers. It's being used by several large mobile phone vendors, Nokia being the most important, but it's also used by Siemens, it's also used by Motorola, it's also used by Sony Ericsson, it's also used by Panasonic, it's also used by Samsung. I don't remember what's the last count of phones running Symbian, but it's somewhere around 100 or so. The Symbian is the market leader. That still doesn't mean that it would be really common. We have over 2 billion mobile phones on the planet. Out of those, only around 4% are smartphones, which are running any operating system like this at all. Symbian is the market leader in that 4%, but it really means that the vast majority of phones on Earth are immune because they aren't running an operating system that could get infected in the first place by any of the current viruses. We, for example, haven't seen Java viruses yet, which would target mobile phones. And that would be a bad situation because Java, as you know, is very, very common. Almost every phone has it. And those of you who were here in Hack in the Box 2 years ago might remember Adam Kodiak's excellent presentation on security vulnerabilities in J2ME, Java Mobile Edition, with remote problems in most of the phones, including old-style closed phones, which aren't running any open operating system at all. So, who writes these? Where are all these viruses coming from? Well, we have several cases of viruses being written in European countries. We have some of them written in Brazil, and quite a few of them written in Asia. Asia actually is the biggest source of mobile phone viruses at the moment. And many of them are coming from Malaysia. There are several known virus writers operating in this region. We are tracking at least 4 of them. I actually am wondering if there's any of them in the audience right now, so please stand up if you're here. We'll pick you up. Now, Malaysia is a source of viruses. Philippines is a source of mobile phone viruses. Indonesia is a source of mobile phone viruses. We can't really explain this, why they are being written right here, but they are. Perhaps the mobile phone or these Symbian-based phones or smartphones are really common here. They are being used by people because they're cheap. They're being subsidized by the local operators, and it might just be a fad. Someone starts writing them, and then his friends get interested, and they share the code, stuff like that. In fact, the reason why mobile phone viruses are targeting Symbian so heavily isn't just about the fact that Symbian is the market leader. Of course, Windows is being targeted by virus writers on the PC side because Microsoft is the market leader. Most of the computers on Earth are running Windows. So of course it makes sense for virus writers to target Windows. Obviously it's not the only reason. We have also reasons like social explanations. For example, Linux users or Mac users. Like Mac OS X right now has 0 viruses. If you're running a Mac, you're running a Mac. You don't need an antivirus. There's no viruses that will infect you. But the reason isn't just that Windows has such a huge market share, and the reason definitely isn't that Mac would be safer and wouldn't have any security holes. Of course it does. The reason actually largely is social. People who have Mac like Mac. People who have Mac like other Mac users. There's this feeling of togetherness. So if you really love your operating system, if you really love the system you're working on, you're not going to end up running viruses, infecting the operating system you like, and hurting your friends. Same thing protects Linux, at least to some extent. It doesn't protect Windows, because nobody loves Windows. However, that's not the only reason why we've seen this phenomenon on the mobile side. In fact, 2 years ago, when we were waiting for the first mobile phone viruses to appear, we really thought that the first mobile phone viruses would be running on Windows Mobile or on Pocket PC. For many reasons. First of all, obviously there's virus writers who hate Microsoft and want to write viruses targeting their operating system. Second of all, there's much more people out there who know how to program Windows than who know how to program Symbian. And then there's much existing examples, and Microsoft is putting out SDKs showing you how to port any existing Windows code to Windows Mobile and to Pocket PC. So basically anybody could just take the latest source code of Bagel or latest source code of Myjoule, which are floating in the net, and recompile it on these mobile platforms. Surprisingly, nobody's done it. So Symbian is the target, and the reason, in addition to market share, really is that there is source code of Symbian viruses floating around. Most of these viruses hitting Symbian are just hacks or modifications of the existing viruses. So this phenomenon feeds itself. Because there are lots of Symbian viruses, we're getting more and more Symbian viruses. We started really working on this problem already in 1999, which was probably too early, because the first viruses were found last year. We shipped our first antivirus product for a mobile phone in 2001. That was an antivirus for the old Nokia communicator, 9210 or 9210i. We've been following the development on the underground side for quite a while. There's been lots of interest in these mobile phone platforms, virus-wise. There's, for example, been competitions on writing viruses on these things. This is a quote from a Slovakian virus writer's website. But the activity really only started in June last year. Kabir, Bluetooth virus, first real mobile phone virus, runs on Symbian, written by 29A Virus Writing Group, which is a virus writing group operating in several European countries with members from Spain, from Czech Republic, from Russia, and some other countries. None of the existing mobile phone viruses even try to break the Symbian security model. None of the existing mobile phone viruses even try to break the Bluetooth security model. They don't even attempt. They don't use exploits, they don't use vulnerabilities, they don't try to evade user in any way. They simply rely on user making a mistake. They simply rely on user installing the viruses. Which is, I mean, it works fairly well with email worms in Windows side, so why wouldn't it work here? And it does work here. But it's important to note that none of these viruses break Symbian security model in any way. In fact, in some ways, Symbian is much safer than Windows is. For example, Symbian will always warn you when you are about to install an unknown application, which Windows has never done, most likely will never do. So let's have a look at this in detail. What do the mobile phone viruses actually look like when you get infected? I'd like to show this to you live, but obviously if I would be running Bluetooth viruses here, they would infect mobile phones in the audience, and we can't have that. The range of Bluetooth is, by the specs, it's 10 meters. In reality, it's 20 to 30 meters. If I have an infected phone right here, it would reach most of the phones in the audience. Plus, it would reach phones behind that wall, phones next floor up from here. So these things do have a fairly large range, but obviously it's not going to jump from one city to another. You have to travel with the phone to get it spreading. So let's have a look what it looks like. User, when getting infected by any Bluetooth virus, will get a series of questions. First question, of course these are a little bit different on different phone models. This is a Nokia 7650. Will show a message like this. Receive message via Bluetooth from, and then it shows the name of the Bluetooth name of the sending phone. In this case, the phone is called Nokia 3650. Then you have to answer yes or no. If you click yes, then you get a message asking install Caribe. Of course, Kabir, the virus writer who wrote Kabir, tried to name it Caribe, but as we usually do, we don't name viruses like virus writers want us to name them. We typically modify the name a little bit, which is exactly what we did here. So the question is, install Caribe, yes or no? If you answer yes, then you will get a warning. A warning saying installation security warning, unable to verify supplier, continue anyway, yes or no. If you still click yes, then you get infected, and now your phone is infected with the virus and it will try to beam itself to other Bluetooth phones in the range. So, you would think that nobody would ever get infected by a virus like this. Like, who would be stupid enough to click yes to these questions? Like, this really can't be spreading anywhere, can it? Well, actually it is. It's spreading in over 30 countries. And there's a very good reason why it's spreading. And let me show it to you. Here's a video that we shot in our virus lab, in a safe RF lab area, showing you in practice how this happens. So what we have here, we have two phones. The phone here on the left side is clean. You can imagine that this is your phone in your pocket. And we are right now infecting this phone with Kabir. And we'll see what happens. We'll take a moment, the virus installing, copying its files. We will soon show the name of the virus code right here, Caribe, and then it will start sending Bluetooth connections, finding the only phone in the room, which is here, and the phone shows receive message via Bluetooth from Nokia 6630, yes or no. Now imagine, this is your phone, it's in your pocket, you're in a bar. Your phone will start showing this message. Of course, you will not notice it. It won't ring, it won't vibrate, it will simply show this message. So it's sitting in your pocket, asking you this question. Of course, one thing that could happen is that you, by accident, keep clicking yes. That's not too likely. What is more likely, that after 10 minutes you decide to call your girlfriend. Alright? So you pick the phone from your pocket, you take it in your hand, and you start to punch in the numbers. However, the numbers won't work. You can't dial, because it's asking you a modal question. Before you can use the phone for anything else, you have to answer this question, yes or no. You can't call, you can't send messages, you can't go to the menu. You have to answer yes or no. So of course, you try answering no. Let's see what happens. We answer no. When you click no, the message comes back. It comes back, it comes back, it comes back, it comes back. So you can't, oh, here we go, let's go back. You can't actually use the phone, because every time you use the phone, or try to use the phone, you get this message sent by the Bluetooth, or displayed by the Bluetooth connection, asking you yes or no, and no doesn't work. Every time you click no, the virus will try to resend itself. It sends itself over and over again. It gets locked to your phone, sending a constant row of these questions to your phone. And of course you get frustrated. You have to call your girlfriend. You can't make the call. No doesn't work. Then you try yes, and then you get infected. So this is actually what's happening in the real world. This is why people are clicking yes. This is why people are getting infected. It all makes sense when you see it. It doesn't make sense at all when you look at the specification. Like, why would anybody click yes? Well, they click yes because they have to call their girlfriend, and no doesn't work. So that's what's going to happen. As you see, when you start clicking yes, the installation goes through, and install Caribe, installation, and you're getting infected. Now, when we started studying Bluetooth viruses, we went through several steps. The first step, which we actually did, because we needed to double check that the virus works, and we needed to double check the functionality, which we of course can do partly by looking at the code, and partly by testing the virus. So obviously, if you just take static code of a virus, we use IDA, just like pretty much anybody else. IDA can disassemble ARM code. You get this is the code of Kabir, and you can read it through. It's not actually even that long. Of course, this is a little bit weird language, and Kabir itself has been written in C, so it's not obvious at all what it's trying to do. Of course, you get the messages and the file name it tries to copy itself. And if you look at the functions it's calling, you'll see that it's using OBX, the Bluetooth file transmission protocol. But obviously we also have to be able to run the viruses, and double check that they actually work, and look at the code, or look at the functionality with practical testing. So the first step we did is that we got in touch with Nokia, and we ordered, we asked if they would be nice enough to build us phones without Bluetooth at all. So they made a series of 5 of their most common models for us, which didn't have the Bluetooth chip at all. Perfectly normal phones, they don't have the Bluetooth chip, so the Bluetooth can't spread further, of course. So we were able to run these viruses in our normal offices and see exactly what happens without the risk of spreading the virus. But obviously that wasn't good enough, so we then started building these RF labs, which you actually see right here, copper and aluminum lining. That's a picture when we were building them. And let's have a look at the situation, just how far and wide they've been spreading. This virus was found in June, first in the wild report from Philippines in August last year, of course, right next door from here. And then slowly but surely it started to spread around the world. To Singapore, to United Arab Emirates, to Beijing, to New Delhi in India. Then it jumped from Asia to Europe. And we actually know how this happened. It was a guy sent by his employer for a 2-week work assignment in New Delhi from Oulu, which is up north in Finland. He got infection to his phone while in India, then he flew back to Finland, walked the streets of Oulu for 2 weeks, spreading the virus further until realizing what was going on. And then it's been slowly but surely going around the world. Now, we do know that the main reason why and how people detect that they are actually infected by Kabir or most of the other Bluetooth viruses is that they start to pay attention to their battery life. Like normally, you might have a phone which you have to recharge every 2 days or every 3 days. Once you get infected by Kabir, it will drain your battery in 2 or 3 hours. So you have to be recharging all the time. And this happens because it opens up the RF comm and the Bluetooth connection all the time, trying to send itself to any device. And Kabir is really stupid. It will try to send itself to any Bluetooth device. It will try to send itself to my mouse, because my mouse is a Bluetooth mouse. Obviously, it cannot infect my mouse. It's not running Symbian, but it will try. And that's obviously not very clever. So Bluetooth viruses are still the biggest problem we have. We've seen many cases of infections in places where there's lots of people from different countries gathered around to a single room, just like what we have here. This would be a typical place where Bluetooth virus is spread. If you scan for Bluetooth devices around you, you'll find 10 to 15 phones. Well, that's what I saw yesterday when scanning here. And of course, when you go to places where there are even more people, they spread even better. We saw several outbreaks during the Live 8 concerts during the summer in many different countries where they were having these concerts. And there were series of outbreaks at the World Championship in Athletics. Of course, tens of thousands of people are right next to each other from all over the world. If one of them has infection in their phone, he can easily send it to several dozens of phones. In fact, they had to set up a disinfection booth at the World Championship of Athletics because there were so many complaints by audience about Bluetooth viruses. Obviously, you won't get infected by Bluetooth viruses if your phone doesn't have Bluetooth. All Symbian Series 60 phones have Bluetooth. Obviously, you don't get infected if your Bluetooth is not on. Also, your Bluetooth has to be visible. If you turn it into hidden mode, none of the existing Bluetooth viruses even try to find you. They could try to brute force the MAC address space of Bluetooth devices and try to gain access to hidden Bluetooth devices, but we haven't seen that yet. Nobody's been trying that yet. So, switch Bluetooth off, keep it hidden. If you can't do that, run an antivirus on your phone. I've received Bluetooth viruses to my own phone twice. Now, obviously, we tell everybody that don't keep Bluetooth on, don't keep it available, don't keep it. Turn it into hidden mode. I myself, I actually have it visible, so I obviously have antivirus on my own phone. I'm running a Nokia communicator. And I've received infection once, standing in the traffic light, standing in the red light in downtown Helsinki. One of the cars around me, waiting at the traffic lights, had an infected phone, was trying to send comwarrior.me to my phone. Obviously I didn't get infected, but it was interesting anyway. And this picture is from Hilton Bracknell in London, in UK. I was there 2 or 3 weeks ago, and while waiting at the reception line to check out, one of the people around me tried to send me comwarrior.a. So he had an infected phone in his pocket, and he tried to send it to me, tried to send it to my phone. It's not hard getting rid of these viruses. In fact, you can do it really easy. There's a couple of ways to do it. You can do it manually. I'll be talking about that in a moment. Or you can use tools. We're selling an antivirus. You can buy our antivirus. It will cost you, I don't know, 40 euros or whatever. However, we are also shipping free tools, tools which cost you nothing. We have a tool called FKabir, another tool called FComWarrior. We have like 5 or 6 different free tools which will remove mobile phone viruses, which you can download straight to your mobile phone. You just surf from the phone to mobile.fsecure.com, or if that's too long to type to your phone, you can just go to phoneav.com and download free tools. You can get rid of Kabir in a minute. Download it, you run this tool, it takes it away, you reboot, you're done. It really isn't hard. You just have to know that you have to do it. Let's have a look at some of the other cases. Ducks. First virus for Microsoft-based phones running on Pocket PC. Found 1 month after Kabir, also by 29A. Obviously a proof of concept virus. In fact, it's so proof of concept, it even asks you this question when you run the virus. Dear user, am I allowed to spread? And if you click no, it will not spread. If you click yes, it will. So it is a virus. It fulfills all the definitions of a virus, no problem. But obviously very, very theoretical. We've never seen it in the wild. We never will see it in the wild. Then we found a backdoor called Prador for Pocket PC devices. When you're infected by this backdoor, whenever you connect the device, your phone or PDA, to the internet, it will send an email to the virus writer, and he can use a backdoor on a high port, which it opens, I think port 32,000 something. And he can telnet or SSH in to the infected phone and steal files and do whatever he wants on the device. It's a backdoor. Then we found this Mosquitoes game, made by this company. I don't know if you guys have seen this really, really annoying TV ad about this crazy frog. This crazy frog ringing tune, the most annoying thing in the world. The same company is also making games. One game they made is this Mosquitoes game, where you shoot mosquitoes on the screen of your mobile phone. It's actually a very, very nice game. The problem is, we started getting reports directly to us and posted on forums like this, where people say that they downloaded or bought the game, and when they were playing the game, they noticed that the game was sending SMS messages to premium rate numbers. So it was creating costs. It was sending messages without telling the user anything about it. So basically it was stealing money from the users. We thought originally that somebody had taken the game and modified it, hacked the game and included this function in it. But when we were disassembling the code, we found out that, or it didn't look like that. It looked like this was really part of the original code. So we got in touch with the company, and it turns out that they actually had put this feature into the game by themselves. It had been there from the beginning. They claimed it was some kind of botched copy protection routine. It wasn't really what they were wanting to do, yada yada, I don't know. They say they removed the routine later on, but of course the original or pirated versions of the game are still floating around in peer-to-peer networks, and people are still downloading and still getting hit by this problem today. Then we found the first Trojan families. This is the Skulls Trojan. It kills your application, so you can't use much of the functionality on your phone. It's pretty hard to get rid of. We'll be talking about that a little bit more. Then we have Skulls.d, which is written here in Malaysia. This one actually doesn't prevent you from using your phone. It won't kill any of your application. It won't break your phone in any way. Your phone works just fine. You just have this flashing skull in the background of your phone all the time, which might be a little bit annoying. But otherwise the phone works just fine. Skulls and many of these other Trojans are basically packaged sys files. So they work basically by dropping files to certain locations on the hard drive. And in fact, it's fairly simple to work with viruses like these. You have tools like unmake.sys, and you can simply open up the virus code, the sys file, the installation file, to unmake.sys. We have different mobile phone viruses here. So if we take Skulls A, which is spread in a file called extended theme, we can extract the file from here, or we can just view the file package. And we can see that it drops different application files to certain folders on the phone when this application is installed. So what it actually is trying to do is that it replaces the existing good applications with broken applications, so nothing will work. That's basically all it does. We'll be having a look at that in just a moment. And this Skulls actually, if you go and look at the directory structure of Skulls in detail, where are we? Mobile, shouldn't be in Skulls. Let's extract all the files from this application. 138 files extracted, and that gives us a directory structure. There's actually two folders. One of the folders it created is called system. So it drops these different files in there. That's not too interesting. Another one is called documents. Personal, locals, temp, MKS, pop-up text. So there's actually a text. It drops claiming that this is a useful application, an extended theme manager, which actually really isn't. Let's have a look at another one. I think it's called D, actually has a more interesting directory structure. Yeah, Nokia images, Nokia's Malaysia, Johor, PJ. It has a very long directory structure for some weird reason that I don't know. And then you end up with a black image. But actually, this is an animated GIF file that the virus will drop on the system. If we actually load it up to a tool that can show us animated GIF files, like Animation Shop, let's open this here, you'll actually see, doesn't actually work. You can actually see that it's an animated GIF file, which will actually show two different images. One of them is a picture of a pretty girl saying virus, and then the name of the virus writers. And like I said, these are Malaysian virus writers. Then we found a series of new viruses resembling Kabir, written in Brazil. We named them Lasco. And these were being distributed from a website called Marcos Velasco Security. And we thought that this was a nickname of some Brazilian virus writer. To our surprise, we later found out that it wasn't a nickname. This was the real name of a real guy. There really is a guy called Marcos Velasco, running a website at velasco.com.br. He posts mobile phone viruses to his website. He also posts pictures of himself, of his family, of his wife, of his kids, of his parents, of his holiday trips. This guy is a PC repairman. He has a PC consulting company in Sao Paulo. And his hobby is writing mobile viruses and putting them on his website. Apparently this is not illegal in Sao Paulo or in Brazil. And many of these Trojans, like Skulls, are actually hitting people's mobile phones because they're downloading pirated games, downloading mobile phone games or applications which have been cracked from websites like this one or from peer-to-peer networks. In fact, there even are groups specializing in cracking mobile phone games, just like there's cracking groups for on the PC side or on the Windows side nowadays. I don't know if this is the most typical way that these Trojans are being distributed, because Trojans, like Skulls, don't replicate further. They only hit your phone and that's it. They don't infect anybody else. Then in March this year, I got a phone call from Sweden. Somebody was asking, what do I know about a virus called ComWarrior? I never heard about it, so I started Googling. So I went to Google and I searched for ComWarrior and I got 2 hits. One of them going to this website at Yahoo, or Tribot. Website done by some Russian guy who had written the first MMS virus in history. Virus spreading over multimedia messages. Guy using a nickname called Elodor. There's some Russian texts inside the virus, such as the one below here, which in English it means no to brain dead, or something like that. And this virus is fairly advanced. It spreads over Bluetooth, it spreads over MMS. It fingerprints the targets. It will only try Bluetooth, or spreading via Bluetooth to compatible devices. It will not try sending itself to my mouse. It will only send itself to Symbian Series 60 phones. And it will only do it once per phone. ComWarrior A spreads over Bluetooth during daytime, from 8 AM in the morning until midnight. Which makes sense, because during daytime you're walking around, you're in places where there are other phones close to you. Then, from midnight to 7 AM, it spreads over multimedia messages. Which makes sense, because when it's sending MMS messages from your phone, some of the messages it sends, it will send to landline numbers, because it goes through your phone's address book. And of course, some of the numbers you have in your phone are not mobile phone numbers. It's landline numbers. You can't send MMS messages to landline numbers. And those messages will bounce. So you will get an error message back to the phone. So it's spreading over MMS during nighttime when you're not looking at your phone. Then we have 1 hour left from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And during that 1 hour, the virus is not spreading at all. It will go through the logs and will remove all evidence of this ever happening. It will remove all the MMS message entries from the logs. So when you wake up 8 a.m. in the morning, you don't see anything on your phone. So it is fairly advanced. And you would think that ComWarrior would actually be spreading much worse than it is. Because if you just think about your own phone, like how many phone numbers do you have in your phone book? How many of those people you list in your phone book know you? How many of them trust you? How many of them would open up whatever you send to them? How many different countries you have listed in your phone book? My communicator has 1,600 numbers in 30 different countries. If I would get infected, I would infect 30 countries. So it actually is fairly worrying when you look at this at the theoretical level. But it actually hasn't been spreading even as widely as Kabir. We have reports from 18 countries right now, including number 9, Malaysia. And let me show you another video. This is ComWarrior spreading and showing how fast it spreads. The phone up here is getting infected. These are clean phones, 5 different phone models. Pay attention. Pop, 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 pop. They all get infected within 1 second. Or actually, they don't get infected. You know, you still have to open up the virus. You will get the same kind of alerts because the application has been signed, just like you get with Kabir. But it is very fast. Then we found Mabir, another virus written by the 29A group. This one also spreads over both Bluetooth and MMS. It's actually a hack or modified version of Kabir. That's why we named it Mabir. It's like multimedia Kabir. And this is actually a very nice technique or social engineering technique that it uses to spread. It works so that when your phone gets infected, unlike ComWarrior, which would immediately send itself to all the numbers in your phone book, Mabir does nothing. It just sits on your phone. It doesn't send itself to anywhere. Then, when someone else calls me, let's say you would call me, we would have a normal phone discussion. After we hang up, Mabir would wake up and send a multimedia message to you. Same thing happens if you would send me an SMS. The virus would pick up the SMS and reply immediately with a multimedia message, which is infected. And this makes perfect sense. Like, I send a message to somebody and he replies. Of course I'm going to open the message. It makes perfect sense. Or we just had a phone discussion. 1 minute after the discussion you send me a file. Of course I think it's somehow related to what we talked about. I'm going to open it. So this is very, very technical, or a very good social engineering trick. 2 weeks ago we found the blank font, which is not remarkable in any way, except it's interesting the way it activates. It removes all the fonts from the phones. So you end up with a phone which can't display any texts. You can see all the icons, you can see the user interface, but there's no texts. And this is actually, it's fairly tricky, for example, to disinfect a phone like this. You can go and download an antivirus program, and you can disinfect the virus fine. It's just really hard using the antivirus program because you don't see any texts. You have to navigate without seeing what you're doing. You can actually take another phone at the same time and press the same keys. Of course, you can do it like that. So then you know what to do. Then we found Doomboot, which is distributed in mobile phone pirated sites, claiming that it's a skin replacement. It will display pictures of pretty girls on your phone. And actually, it's nice enough. It actually does display pictures of pretty girls on your phone. However, next time you start try booting up your phone, it will not reboot. So that's why it's called Doomboot. Your phone will crash during the next reboot. You will not be able to get it up and running. And some of these mobile phone Trojans that really try to break the phone can be really hard to disinfect. We've made some tools to help that, but it's not always easy. Then last week we found Card Trap. This is a first virus on the mobile phone side which will try to spread, or actually it's not spreading the Windows side, it drops 2 Windows viruses. And the logic is that when your mobile phone gets infected, if your mobile phone has a memory card, like most mobile phones nowadays do, it will drop 2 files onto the memory card. So suppose the virus is thinking that the guy who gets infected by a mobile phone virus is going to try to disinfect the virus. And he might just take the memory card and put it to his memory card reader on the Windows PC, and then when he looks at the memory card, this is what he will see. Some of these are real files, some of them are not. For example, one file it drops is an autorun file. So there's an autorun.inf file which will try to run this fsb.exe file. But autoruns are not supported on memory cards. I haven't been able to find any memory card reader that would support autorun, which of course is supported on, for example, CD-ROMs. So that most likely will not work. It might work on some system, but we haven't been able to find any. However, the other trick it does is fairly nice, because it drops a file called system.exe, which has the icon of a system folder. And one thing an infected user might think that he wants to do is that he takes the memory card, puts it in his PC, and browses to the system folder of the card, because it makes perfect sense that the virus is probably in the system folder. So when you put it to memory card reader, what you have this folder and you have this folder. One of them is real, one of them is not. One of them is actually a file called system.exe, but as you know, by default, Windows doesn't show exe extensions. It hides known file types. And because the icon is the icon of a folder, it looks like a folder. So let me ask you this. Which one would you click? Which one would you open? Which one would you double click? Let's have a raise of hands. Those of you who would click on this one to open up the system folder, please raise your hands. Alright? Those of you who would click on this one to open up system folder, please raise your hands. Very good. Those of you who wouldn't click on either one, please raise your hands. Very good. The virus is the one in the bottom. The one with capitals is the fake one. That's, if you double click on that, you get infected. Interestingly, this actually is not related, but while doing research into AutoStart files, I found a Korean manufacturer that's actually manufacturing USB hard drives, like normal USB sticks, which claims to be, it lies to the system that it's not a USB stick. It lies that it's a CD-ROM drive. So the UID of the USB specification allows the device to tell what kind of device it is. And this one is actually lying that I'm a CD-ROM drive, which means when you put that stick into any Windows machine, it will run the AutoStart file from this stick. So you can put anything you want on the stick, stick it on your friend's computer, and it will run whatever is on the stick. I just ordered a couple of those. I haven't received them yet, but they will make a nice demo, I'm sure. So, we have 20 minutes to go. Let's have a look at some of the functions of these things. First off, Symbian file system. The way files are stored in Symbian. There's different drives. The C drive, which is a RAM, that's where it's flash RAM, that's where all the applications are, that's where you can copy whatever you want by yourself. Then there's a D drive, which is a temporary drive used by temporary storage. Then there's a memory card drive, which is E by default. And then there's Z, which is normal drive, but it's read-only. That's wrong. That's where the applications are. All these drives have system folder. Like you saw, the memory card has a system folder. If you take an empty memory card, stick it into a Symbian phone, it will create a system folder for you. And this contains the most important directories, for example, the applications, the recognizers, and the library folders, where the components are. And the Symbian executables, the structure is very simple. There's 3 different kinds of applications. There's app files, exe files, and MDL files. They all have a 32-bit unique UID. If 2 applications have the same UID, operating system will think they are the same application. And these differences between app, exe, and MDL are that app files are applications which will show something, which will have user interface. EXEs are command line applications or server applications with no user interface, and MDL files are recognizers, like services basically, or drivers, start automatically, provide association services. Every single thing you run on your phone, every icon you click, like messaging or web browser or camera, each one of those icons is actually a separate program. They're all app files. So for example, the menu of the phone is actually a program called menu.app. When you're installing new applications, you're actually running an application called app.eat.app. So every single thing is actually a separate file. And these are installed through Symbian installation system, SIS. Sys files are installation files. And that's the only way you can actually get stuff running on a Symbian phone. If you have a standalone app file or exe file, you cannot run it. You can't double click on it. It won't run. You have to install it using an SIS file. So all the known malware we have installs itself as an SIS file. So it's just an archive file, basically a zip file with it's not a zip file, but it's an archive, which has a short header and the actual files, which are not compressed by default. We were looking at the sys components of skulls just a moment ago, so you can actually see, just by looking at the sys file itself, what it's going to install, where, what kind of files it contains. And many of these viruses are actually trying to avoid that the user wouldn't be able to uninstall it. They do this in various different ways. Some of them break the app-ins app program. If you break it, then you won't be able to uninstall. Or it installs itself normally and then it manually copies the file somewhere else, so the uninstallation feature won't find it. Or it tries to somehow crash the uninstall feature. So whenever you're trying to launch something on the phone, when you click on, for example, the web browser icon, the operating system will look at different places for the application. By default, the application is on the ROM drive, on the Z drive. However, if there is a folder with the same name, which contains an application with the same name on any of the other drives, it will use that instead. So for example, if you have z/foo/bar.app and c/foo/bar.app, it will run the one from C. And this is a feature. They did it like this, so if you need to upgrade your web browser, which is one by default in ROM, you can just copy a new web browser with the same name to your C drive and it will run that instead. Many of the Trojans use this feature to overlay and to break the ROM application. They copy broken versions of Symbian applications to C drive, and they will then get used instead of the working ones. So how do you work with an infected phone? Well, you can look at the process list by just keeping down the menu button on Symbian Series 60 phones. It will show you the list of the applications running. You can delete or kill applications by pressing C. This works for many of the Trojans. It works for Kabir. It will not work for ComWarrior. ComWarrior, well, I wouldn't call it a rootkit, but it will remove itself from the process list. We haven't seen any real rootkits on Symbian side. You can download separate applications like process viewers. The ones I'm recommending are listed here. File managers, file explorer, and get a little bit more details from your phone. That's what the process list looks like. So you can see what's running, and you can kill applications by just pressing C when the application is chosen. When the phone is already infected, switching off Bluetooth won't help. Viruses enable Bluetooth by themselves, so even if you have it off, it will be turned on by the virus. So move away from the masses. You want to work with the phone somewhere where there's not a lot of people around you. Check the list of processes, kill unknown processes, scan the phone, download stuff from mobile.fsecure.com or from phoneav.com, which go to the same site. And we have these different tools that I mentioned, which are totally free. We'll take away most of the common viruses out there. There are also ways of formatting the phone, which really isn't necessary for any of the mobile phone malware out there. But I'm mentioning them anyway, just so that you know. On all Symbian Series 60 phones, if you dial *#7370#, which is an undocumented feature, it will ask you if you want to format your phone. This is a high-level format. Works on all Symbian Series 60 phones except 7710 from Nokia, where you have to dial something else. I don't remember what it is. If you need it, let me know. And then you have a hard format, which is a low-level format, which you do by shutting down the phone, pressing down the green button to answer the phone button, keeping it down, pressing star, keeping it down, pressing 3, and keeping it down. And then you turn the phone on, and you keep these down all the time. And it will not ask you anything. It will not ask you for security code, it won't ask you anything at all, it will just do a low-level format on the phone. So be careful, don't do this, don't do it on your friends' phones either. This is totally undocumented, but it works fine. So let's have a look. We have some phones here at stage, and let's see in practice some of these things that we've been talking about. I have here two different phones. They're both from Nokia, but we could actually be doing these on any Symbian phone, phones from Samsung or Panasonic or Motorola or Sony Ericsson would work fine. So this really isn't just a Nokia problem. Many people think it's a Nokia problem, it actually isn't. So what we have here is a Nokia Communicator 9500 and a Nokia 3230. So let's have a look, for example, at some of the tools I was talking about. I was mentioning this File Explorer tool, which is right here. And so this tool will enable you to browse the phone system, look at the drives. We can actually see the drives I was talking about right here. So we have C drive, D drive, Z drive. Don't have a memory card inside right now. If I would have a memory card, it can show up as drive E. Nothing special in here. We can browse through the folders. This phone is clean, there's no infections. But as you can see, system folder exists on all the drives. This is the wrong drive. Application folder contains all the applications. So for example, web browser is right here. Web browser.app. Alright. I'm now showing the process list. Keeping down the menu button will show up what we're running. All the applications we have are running right here. And then pressing the C button will exit applications. This way you can just kill off viruses. So we just killed off a process. Then we have here an antivirus application. Actually, we can go over here. Starting up an antivirus, that's what an antivirus program looks like on a phone. In fact, let me start an antivirus here too. So we have two different Symbian antiviruses running. This one running on Symbian Series 60, this one running on Symbian Series 80. And we can, for example, start a virus scan through the phone, just double check that it's clean right now. It's actually very fast scanning through a phone like 3230 because it doesn't have too many files. Scanning through my communicator, which has a 2 gig memory card, will take 5 minutes at least. Alright, scan is done, infected file 0, scanned 198 files. Alright, let's do something more interesting. Let's go to the file manager on the communicator here. I'm exiting antivirus, so I can actually access virus files here. I'm using just the perfectly normal file manager of communicator. And here we have a folder called virus. I have a couple of sample files here. One of them is the ACAR test file, which is not a real virus. It's the same test file you can use to test your antivirus programs on the Windows side. And I'm sending it through Bluetooth from this phone to this phone. I'm not stupid enough to browse for Bluetooth names right now because I know there's many of you in the audience who just changed your Bluetooth name to something really funny, so I'm not going to do it. But I did this before. This phone is called Sonic 3230. So I'm sending this test file from this phone to this phone as a Bluetooth connection. Let's see if it works out. Yes, it does. Receive message via Bluetooth from Honeypot. The name of this phone is Honeypot, so that's what it's showing here. Of course, we want to receive it. And the Bluetooth transmission starts, and it's getting blocked by an antivirus. Antivirus has detected a new infected file. So it blocked it and names it ACAR antivirus test file. So the antivirus is working in real time, scanning all the Bluetooth traffic, it's scanning all the MMSs, it's scanning whatever you download from the web. Working in the background just like any of the normal antivirus programs work on the Windows side. Alright, well this is not fun. We have to turn the antivirus off if we want to get something interesting done. So let's delete this file we just sent. Oh, this is actually good to show. The name of the file which we blocked is btobex.tmp. So that's the temporary name used by the operating system when receiving Bluetooth files. BT for Bluetooth, OBEX for the OBEX push protocol, FTP protocol that uses to transmit Bluetooth files around. So we'll delete this file. Then we go to settings. We're actually here. Change the scanning from real time, which scans for applications in real time, to manual. So now it only scans files when I'm going and initiating a scanning manually. So now the phone is not protected. Great. Let's send some stuff there. What we have here is a file called extendedp.sys. The same file we were looking at on my computer just a moment ago. So this is this cars.a virus. Let's send it on Bluetooth. Do the same phone. Sony 2320. Here we go. I used to have a phone. Okay. Very nice. The reason stop it. Come on, I'm doing a demo here. Let's cancel this. Let's restart. from this phone to this phone, just as we were doing previously. And this is actually a very large file. It's a 1.4 meg application, which is pretty big. It will take a moment while we send it. So while we're sending it, let me tell you a story. I was lecturing about mobile risks and mobile phone viruses in a conference in Cairo, in Egypt, in May. This was an Interpol conference with police officers from over 100 different countries attending the conference. In a high secure area, they had isolated a conference hall, like 1 kilometer area, with no one else there except this Interpol conference, because they were worried about security. So I did my lecture, I showed some of this stuff, some of the slides you saw here, and then after the lecture, one of the Egypt police chiefs came to me with his Nokia 6600, and he was a little bit confused because he explained that he had seen some of the things I was showing in my slides, and he was worried about his phone. So we had a look at his phone, and of course it was infected by Kabir and me. So there we were, in the middle of a high security conference hall, with this guy walking around with his infected Nokia 6600 with 200 policies from over 100 different countries over there. Perfect place to spread a mobile phone virus. That's of course what he was doing in practice. The whole experience actually was very interesting. It was the first time I've never had never arrived to a country like what happened there. Let's open this up now. One new message, and as you see, it's not blocked. If the other ones would have been running, we would have blocked this. We get the warning, application is untrusted, may have problems. Install only if you trust the provider. Yeah, sure we do. Installation, install extended theme. Yes, please install it. Replace, yes. May not be compatible. This is because it's actually the sysfile headers tells that this is only targeting, or it's only supposed to work on Nokia 7650. This is a Nokia 320. It works, but it shows an extra warning. Oh, I just quit the installation. Come on. I should click no. Install, yes, yes. Replace. Don't quit. And then it gives us this text. It's very small, so I'll read it. Next theme is an advanced theme manager for 7610. Yada yada yada. T222 takes no responsibility for any kind of results caused by this app. Install at your own risk. Developed by T222. That's the nickname of the virus writer, who is from Malaysia. Again, T222. If you are in the audience, please stand up. No. And it starts the installation. This will take a while too. So what I was telling about this Interpol trip, when I arrived to Cairo airport, and I walked out from the plane, when I arrived from the tube to the airport, there were two guys in military outfits, having rifles, and having a sign which says, Mr. Hyppö. And I was like, alright. And they were like, give me your passport. Sure, okay, you go, I gave you my passport. Follow me if you want to live. And they took me down to a basement of the airport, to a small van, drove me out of the airport. We never went through the passport, we never went through the security check, we never went through anything at all. They turned out to be the good guys. They took me to my hotel. I was very happy about that. And I was worried at some stage, of course. And then, like 2 weeks later, there was this bombing in Egypt. So of course, they were worried for a reason. They were. The risks of having someone trying to attack an Interpol conference probably isn't zero, so I suppose they were worried for a reason. Now this installation takes a while because it's now unpacking and copying 1.4 megs of broken applications to the C drive of this phone, to the same folders that exist on the Z, on the ROM drive. And the applications are broken. They're typically 0 bytes long. And the end result of that is that when now, after the installation, when I try to run any of these applications, like I explained, the operating system will try to use the applications from the C drive instead of from the Z drive, and because the C drive copies are broken, nothing works. It will try to break everything on the phone, but it will fail because some of the applications on this phone aren't the same that were on the phone that the guy was testing this on. So there are some new applications introduced in Nokia 330 which were unknown at the time. written, so it actually will not be breaking those. It only breaks the applications that were available in 7610 at the time when this virus was written. We found this virus, I think in October or November last year. Alright. Nokia is of course the biggest user of Symbian and Symbian Series 60, which is the user interface these phones are all using. Series 60 is actually the name of the user interface. And you can get a full list of all the Series 60 phones by visiting series60.com in the net. And it actually isn't obvious for the end user at all what operating system is running. You don't really know. It doesn't say anywhere that it's Symbian. Well, it does if you look really hard, but it's not obvious. And even if you have Symbian, it's not obvious which version of Symbian you're running. It could be Symbian Series 40, it could be Symbian Series 80, like on the communicator here, or it could be Symbian Series 60, which is what we're running here. Series 40 is not vulnerable to any of these viruses. They won't work there. And we've seen the first real outbreaks, company internal outbreaks already too. Just last month we were working with a company who basically had hundreds of their employees receive ComWarrior messages during one day, because some of their employees got infected and they had phone books which listed everyone else in the company. Many of those users actually were not running Series 60, they were running Series 40 or some older phone models, so they didn't get infected. Even if they tried installing it, it wouldn't work. But of course it's a problem by itself if you keep getting these messages all the time. It's very disturbing. The installation is finished. It said installation complete. Everything seems to be normal. And when we go and click the menu button now, we end up to a menu which looks quite different than what it used to look like. We have skulls replacing most of the applications on the phone. And when we try to click on these, they won't work. So that's what the phone Trojan is trying to do. It's not a virus, it will not spread further from my phone, but nothing works. I can still make phone calls. Oh, who's this Michael Ryder? Shut up. It will still be able to make phone calls, it will still be able to send SMS messages. Or actually, is it? Let's try to go to messages. I think it will work. No, it won't. Yeah. So it manages to break much of the functionality. Some applications like visual radio still works because it didn't even try to break this one. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to show here. Of course, if this would be a real phone, next step now would be to run it to the antivirus scanner and remove it, but that takes forever. So let's try some of these reformatting tricks that we were talking about. So like I mentioned, if you dial *#7370# when I click hash, I didn't click any of the call buttons, I just clicked hash, and I get a message saying restore original phone settings. Phone will restore. And if I click yes, it will do a high level format. Won't take very long. I'm not going to do that right now. Come on, Michael Ryder, I'm doing the demo here. Shut up. Instead, let's try doing this low level format, which, as you might remember, consisted of rebooting the phone by keeping down the green button, number 3, and start. It's a little bit tricky because you have to keep them all pressed down at the same time, but we can do it if you just are careful enough. Star, 3, green, and turn the phone on. And keep them pressed. It doesn't work every time, but when it does, it's actually pretty nasty because it really doesn't ask you any questions or any kind of security alerts. This high-level format will ask you for the security code, and if you don't know the security code of the phone, you won't be able to do it. Alright, seems to be doing it now. So it's not rebooting. Alright. Go accept it. Booting up. Thank you very much. And let's see if the menu works now. Still booting up, so it takes a while. Yes. Yeah. Well, basically that's what I wanted to show. So that's the way to get your phone back to working if everything else fails. Okay, let's switch back to the slides so I finish.
Can you tell us the reasons why you're naming the viruses differently?
Of course, we don't like virus writers. Virus writers write viruses and put texts in the viruses, naming the virus like this is the ultimate killer super virus, and then we name it, this is the lady kill. We don't want to gratify the virus writers. Virus writers don't get to name their viruses, we do. One of the things that drives them is pain, and we don't want to make them happy. So we name the viruses with some other name than what they wanted to be named.
So what about other companies like Semantic? Are they agreeing with you on the
Oh yes, this is nothing new. All the other companies have been doing this forever. So the only problem, of course, is that we have to synchronize the name, that everybody uses the same name. Or for example, copier, everybody calls copier, which is not the name the virus writer wanted to name.
And finally, what are your recommendations to OS manufacturers in order to deal with especially these user problems?
We're actually working closely with Symbian. Symbian version 9 is coming out, which has been announced already, and the first phones running are coming out right about now, actually has much better security. Even Symbian, the current version of Symbian are that bad. They will warn you about unknown applications or unsigned applications. In Symbian 9, even if the user agrees installing an application, if it's unsigned, it will be allowed to install, but it will be limited in functionality. Unsigned applications won't, for example, be able to access Bluetooth, which is very nice technique. We'll see how well it works out in the real world. There's lots of things mobile operators and Windows can do, and I think Symbian is doing a fairly good job. All right. Do we have any other questions?
What are the methodologies to locate the viruses properly?
Do you mean how do we find the viruses, or do I mean?
The mobile viruses, they are in different places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how do we detect it and locate it? I mean globally.
Right. How do we find them? How do they get sent to us? They get sent to us from end users and from operators and from mobile, from Windows and Nokia. Obviously, when the user gets into the problem, he typically goes to the operator or the phone manufacturer, and we work with them. They take it up with us and ask our help. So most of the samples of new viruses we get are coming either from the users or from the operators. I think we're a little bit behind schedule, so I'd be happy to answer any of your questions privately after this talk. Once again, thank you very much.